Hey y'all, Jordan Rayner here, and you may remember me from Team Reba on NBC's The Voice. Well, today I want to invite you into my home studio. We're going to take a Deana Carter song, Strawberry Wine, and we're going to recreate it. I love to listen to songs and try to imagine, like, hey, if I had written that song, how would I have recorded it? How would I have sung it? And I love to just get my hands on it and dig in and pull up different instruments, different sounds. So we're going to go into Strawberry Wine today, instrument by instrument, track by track. I'm even going to take you into some of the mixing tips and tricks that I use to make it sound just the way I like it. So come on with me. So two things that I have to iron out before I can start tracking a song is I want to know what key am I going to do it in and what is the tempo. And so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to play with a couple of different keys to kind of figure out where is the sweet spot in my voice for this song. Strawberry wine, 17. The hot July moon saw everything. Okay, so that's a higher key, and I was kind of exploring that. You know, there's something kind of interesting whenever you pick a higher key. It can almost create the illusion of youth, like you're younger. And for this song, you know, it's about a 30-year-old woman looking back on her childhood. And so I think it's important, probably at this point, to drop the key, go into a lower register to create the auditory illusion of you being older. So I'm going to take it down a whole step. Whoa, bittersweet and green on the vine, like strawberry wine. Yeah. I like the emotion in that. I like the timbre of it. I like that I don't have to push super hard. So it's not in the morning right now. My voice isn't warm, but I can tell that's going to be a sweet spot. So we have our key. Let's look at tempo. Tempo is so important whenever you're recording a song because, yeah, this is a ballad, and most people think, oh, well, it's a ballad, just play it slow. But how slow you play it or how fast you play it can determine, again, how you get the emotion across. If it's too fast, you're going to miss some of that emotion, some of that nostalgia that you're wanting in this song. But if it's too freaking slow, the song's going to be 5 minutes long, and people are going to be looking at their watch going, is this song ever going to be over? So that being said, I'm pretty sure that this is the tempo we're going to stick with. Right? So I think it's actually a little slower than the original, but I like that it's a little more bluesy. It's got a little more swing to it than the original. You know, the original is almost a very straight 6/8. It's a little more tempo, and they probably did that for commercial reasons, for radio reasons. The more tempo you can get on radio, the better. So even ballads will be pushed, I think, as fast as they can possibly get without losing the vibe. But on this song, we don't care. Vibe is what we're going for. So I've taken it a little bit slower than the original, and I think it's going to be very cool. The next thing that I do whenever I'm getting ready to record a song, I want to have what's called a signature, something that you hear right off the bat at the beginning of the song, and it's something that you'll hear repeated musically throughout the song to kind of bring you back home. It's kind of what I call home base. With this song, again, it kind of starts on the 1 chord here. It's like a boom, 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 boom. It goes to the 4, right? So what I like to do is to try to find a melody, something hooky that catches your ear that can go on top of those bass chords that are being played. And so sometimes I'll just play those bass chords and I'll start singing over the top of it and like a... I think that's really pretty. It's dreamy. It kind of takes you to a nostalgic place. And so that melody on the guitar would be... So what I'll do is I'll add that melody to what I'm playing. So it might be... So now we have our key, our tempo, and our signature lick. Let's start tracking. Okay, so I've got my MXL V69 microphone here, and I'm running it through a Universal Audio preamp and compressor. It's the 6176. This guitar is going to have so much warmth and so much depth. Okay, so something that I'll do when I'm tracking acoustic guitar is I'm going to listen to, the compression settings, how much gain limiting I'm getting on it so that the expressions breathe and everything isn't too squashed, but I'm also going to be listening for the sweet spot in the guitar, and you find find that through mic placement. For example, if I want a warmer tone, I'm going to place the mic a little closer to the sound hole. If I want a brighter sound, I'm going to move it a little closer to the neck of the guitar. But every guitar has a tonal sweet spot that the microphone can pick up. And for this song, because it's a ballad, it's very intimate, it's a storytelling song, I want these instruments to feel like you've got your face right up against them. I want that closeness. And so I'm literally going to adjust the proximity of this microphone, and I'm going to play very close up. It's going to pick up every little fret noise. It's going to pick up the movements of my fingers. It's going to sound like you're literally sitting right up against this guitar. Okay, so the first guitar track is tracked, and here's another nerdy thing that I like to do is after I've tracked my first acoustic track, I will then add a second acoustic guitar track, but I'll capo up, and I'll show you what I mean, and I'll play it in a different inversion, a different position, and what that does is whenever you're listening to the recording, you've got one guitar that's got a deeper sound on the left-hand side, and you've got another guitar that's got a higher, brighter sound, and it just feels like you're literally being wrapped in a hug. It's a super cool effect. So let's track the higher guitar now. Okay, y'all, so we have our guitars tracked. Now, just like I told you, we have the two different guitar tracks here. We got the blue one and the red one. And whenever you play the two together, oh, it is magic. Are you ready? Oh, yes. Oh, yes. So the next instrument that I want to add is piano. Check this out. So in the recording world, we have what are called plugins. Basically, there's not an instrument in the world you can't get your hands on through the technology of plugins. But I'll tell you, one of my favorite plugins is the Alicia's Keys. Alicia Keys has a piano that is her piano. It's her signature sounding piano, and I believe there are only 3 of these pianos in the world. And so what they've done is they've gone into her home, they've put microphones on her actual piano, and they've sampled the sound, and then they have put that sound into a plug-in. And so literally whenever I play my little MIDI keyboard here, it doesn't sound like this keyboard. It sounds exactly like Alicia Keys' home piano. Are you ready for this? Is that not beautiful or what? It's literally, you're hearing the captured sound of Alicia Keys' piano right here in a home studio thanks to the amazing technology that we have our hands on. And so we are going to now apply a piano track on top of these beautiful acoustic tracks, and we're going to start to hear the magic come to life. So a quick little musical note of some of the choices that I'm making. I'm keeping the chords basically the same, but there are slight little notation things that you can do that you would be surprised what emotions they actually draw out. The basic chord structure is the hot July moon saw everything. And so when you've got, that's the basic chord, but if I change this to this, just that can create a totally different mood. It sounds sadder. Let me show you. The hot July moon saw everything. Instead of going hot July moon saw everything, just having that note in it creates this somber kind of longing sound. same concept, but like two different notes in a totally different emotional response. Okay, so now may be the most fun part that I love to add to ballads, and we are going to do strings. Now, fun fact, when I was a kid, I wanted to grow up and be a movie composer, and this song is just yearning for some great strings parts. So, again, thanks to technology, I don't have to have an orchestra in this home studio. There are some amazing patches that are sampled from real instruments. They're not fake instruments. They are literally recorded in a masterful studio with $10 billion microphones and great instrumentalists that are playing this stuff by hand, and then it's implemented into technology that I can then manipulate and orchestrate from my keyboard. And here's the thing about strings. Orchestras are made up of sections, and so people, if they are trying to record string ensembles just like this, and they're trying to use a patch to make it sound like there's an orchestra, people can sometimes get in a hurry and do themselves a disservice by playing a patch that has all the strings ensemble pieces in one patch. And what that does, unfortunately, is it makes it sound super fake, because in an orchestra, every section is playing something different. You don't want every section playing the exact same thing, because that sounds a lot like a keyboard manufactured strings piece. And so I actually like to do it as much like the real thing as possible. I start with my cellos, which is my lowest string section. And you see I've got my cello patches here. I don't think I'm going to have the cellos even come in until the pre-chorus of this song. It's a different section of the song that comes right before the chorus, and that's the first time that I want there to be a lift in dynamic. I want there to be a new instrument introduced. And so we're going to skip the intro and the first verse, and we are going to go straight to the pre-chorus on some cellos. Okay, so we have our cellos tracked, and now we're going to move to our violins. There's that signature we talked about earlier. Okay, so we've got our violins tracked, we've got our cellos tracked, but I want to show you maybe like one of my favorite things ever. So anybody that does track building for a living knows that violin sounds, like solo violin sounds, are so hard to find, because most of them, if they're fake, it sounds fake and it sounds like crap. This plug-in right here, the Stradivari violin, this is another example. Just like they sampled Alicia Keys' piano, they sampled an actual Stradivarius violin, and this plug is mind-blowing how truly authentic it sounds. Hear that slide? You actually get violin performance quality. So you dang well know we're about to have some weeping violin on this song. Okay, so now we have tracked acoustic guitar, piano, cellos, violins, and solo violin. I'm about to show you some nerdy crap here. Okay, so now if you see the screen in front of me, you see all these little mountain peaks and all these squiggly lines. It looks like graph lines. What this is this is automated volume. And so as you can see here, we've got our Stradivarius, we've got the violins, we've got the cellos, we've got the piano. And so another thing that makes strings sound less fake whenever you are having to fake them is if you've got a violin patch and it's the same volume all the way across, and for example, like right here, see how it's just a straight line? That volume isn't changing. That sounds very robotic, and whenever a violinist plays, he is playing with expression just like a person would with their voice. So what I actually do is I hand draw expression so that these notes and these changes actually breathe like a human being is playing them, and so you get these variations in volume. So real quickly, let me show you what that sounds like. Absolutely. I mean, if you look here, just how, like, this is my cello track here. You've got the Stradivarius up here who's playing the melody, that ba-da-da-dum. And just for a second, while the Stradivarius is playing that, you can see that there's a drop in the volume of the cellos. I wanted the cellos to get out of the way of that melody just for a minute, but then on the back half, I wanted them to swell in, and it creates such an emotional effect. Here comes the cellos. So much emotion in that. I love it. Okay, so now we've tracked acoustic guitar, piano, we've tracked our strings, and honestly, I don't want to add a lot more. However, I think something on the bottom end, just that's a little pluckier, that creates the illusion of a bouncing ball, some sort of rhythm. I don't want drums on this track, and so a way that I can create cadence and a little bit of an attack of a kick drum without using a kick drum is to add some acoustic bass. I do play upright bass, but I do not own one, and I do not have one in this studio, and so okay, so we got the bass tracked. The only thing left is my vocals. My first taste of love, whoa, bittersweet and green on the vine, like strawberry wine. Okay, y'all, vocals are tracked. The track is complete. Now, the thing is we want to mix it. We want to get everything settled in just right. We want instruments kind of evolving and moving and ducking, weaving in and out of each other. We want the vocal to sound very present, up close, intimate, and we want it to sound as a whole very warm, very nostalgic. And so there are some tips and tricks that I like to do to make a recording sound mastered and complete. So if you look down here, we have what's called a master track, which means that this track here is affecting all of the tracks that have been recorded, my vocals, all my instruments, and one of the plugins that I love to use is called this Lurzen Mastering Console. It's going to color the track as a whole to have sort of a warmth and analog sound, just like you would hear on a professional analog studio console. This one's actually bypassed, but I've got a vintage EQ, and as you can see, you've got all these different settings. You've got the low mid boost, which I've boosted by about 3.5 decibels. It's going to create, again, kind of a warmth bubble. That's going to bring out that upright bass frequency and really make that kind of wompy and lush. I've got a high boost at about 3 dB as well, and it's at the 10K frequency, which is going to bring out kind of the what I call the crunchy parts of the strings. It's going to add that string character. I've got an overall high cut around the 5K frequency, which is kind of where my vocal sits. I have a piercing frequency that happens in my voice, and it can kind of tend to coat an entire recording, and so I will tend to do a high cut right around that range of the high end of my vocal. Then I've got a vintage limiter as well, which is going to keep the recording in check. If there are any major volume spikes or jumps in anything, this is going to keep that under control so that the recording is nice and even, and it's a pleasant thing to listen to all the way through. And this here is a tape simulator, and again, what this does is it simulates the sound of an analog board running a recording to tape, and I just love the OG sound. Again, I don't have the money and the equipment to do it the authentic way, so I am recording digital, and I'm having to create the illusion of analog, but you can hear the difference. Let me turn this plug-in off and let you hear a bit of the recording without it on, and then I'll turn it on so you can hear the difference in the brightness and the character of the recording. So right now, here is with this plug-in disabled. And now let me enable this plug-in. You're going to hear a subtle difference, but it's going to add a lot of character. Here's with it off. Here's with it on. You can can hear how much more present the guitars become. Everything is just a little bit brighter, and it's got a lot more definition. I love it. So now the mastering plugs have been applied, everything is mixed, the thing is finished, and I can't wait for you to hear it. Please let me know in the comments if you would like another part to this video so that you can hear the final thing.